Thank you, everyone.
Yep.
It's the Ontario and Western Railway, not the railroad. But anyway,
Sorry.
it's all right. Everybody says railroad. But anyway, I am a longtime member of the society, and as you can see on the header here, this program is based on my mentor at the society, Doug Barbario, and how I found out about the O&W. And try to keep it as brief as possible. My family and I moved up here from Brooklyn in 1971. The only trains I ever saw in Brooklyn were the subway cars until we moved up here, and then I saw trains, along both sides of the Hudson, and the Erie still was running when we lived in Washingtonville. So the Erie was on that part of the movement. It was on the north side. Our family's house ended on the south side of the property. I went to St. John's, I went to Burke, I remember the Erie and Goshen. But I also remember these two dirt roads, and one of them was on 94, going up by Meadowbrook Lodge when we went to Vales Gate, and then the school bus would go over this other one on 207. So then when I went to Burke in Goshen, there'd be kids from all over Orange County let it go. So we'd ride around, and I'd see, all this weird stuff in Walk Hill. When I turned 18, you only had to be 18 then to drink, and all our friends took advantage of that. So we would go to this place, the Fiesta Cafe, the O&W station, and then we'd go get dinner sometimes at the Rusty Nail. Shortly after, right around that time, I get hired by the DOT. So I get to see more stuff. I see this huge, on 32, this big edifice on the side. What's that? This another dirt road on 9W. So again, I'm working for the DOT, and at that time 207 is being widened from Campbell Hall to Newburgh, and in Rock Tavern, where the school bus used to go over this little bridge, they're removing that. Well, at that time also, my father was a proud member of the FDNY, and he had to get a new car. He used to have a VW Bug, and he wanted to get a new car, a Subaru. So he's talking to this guy. It was a used car. It was for sale in Rock Tavern, and he says, where are you? And he tells him, and he's like, we're both on the phone. He goes, well, when you get off the old road there, and I knew where it was because the bridge was being torn down. He goes, you got to drive down the railroad tracks, and then you get to my house. It's quite what my father's like. He's like, yes. He's like, he was a charming individual. We won't repeat because there's kids here. What he said, and. We drove down, he bought the car. So I have all this in mind, blah, 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 Rusty Nail, hanging out, Bart Bull Road, this thing on the side of the road. So let's fast forward to 2003, 2004. I am now a supervisor at the DOT, and I am down at the West Point Circle with two guys. That's my winter shift. But we get a storm warning, the storm of the century. Anybody that is certified to drive a snowplow truck will be with you at your little station. So I got 6 guys in a room this big at midnight waiting for the snow, and we look outside and it's as clear as it is today. Now what? So one of the guys, I knew him, I don't work with him, his name's Doug. He brings in this book. I said, geez, Doug, what's that? He goes, oh, it's this book. It's a travel guide. It's about this railroad that used to go from Cornwall way upstate. And, mainly to Middletown, that's what I'm interested in. I go, yeah, what's the name of it? He goes, the Ontario and Western. I'm like, the wheels start turning. I go, I've heard of that. What is that? He goes, so he opens the book to this page. I used to live in Washingtonville, and I'd have to go that way to get to Maybrook when I went to work at the DOT. I used to plow that road. I used to plow that road. I go, I know where that is.
You live by Spinners. Yeah.
I flip the page. Uh-oh.
Not going.
There it goes.
There it goes. Well, anyway,
PowerPoint's
that's the next page, and there's where my father and I drove down the railroad tracks to buy the Subaru. I was like, shocked. So I'm opening the book. That's what that was. So I go out and I start taking all these pictures. I meet Doug, who's my mentor. He suggests that we combine forces and make this presentation. So I was hoping Doug would be here, but he's not. So what we're going to do first is thank everybody This is Mr. DeWitt Littlejohn. The Ontario and Western started as the Oswego and Midland shortly after the Civil War. After the Civil War, America was on a railroad crazy frenzy, building frenzy, until 1873, when there was a huge depression, and then it was real bad financial times. So the O&M went under, and for several years, too long to explain here and too detailed, and they reorganized as the New York, Ontario, and Western. Who does he look like?
Lincoln.
Well, that's about it, because he's about as honest in the worst way.
As they all were.
Right.
Robert Beards.
So this is the last train, March 15th. This is their notice. 2 weeks, it's all over. 1957. A lot of people say the O&W was the first Class A railroad to shut down. That's not true. At the time, it was the largest Class A. There was a couple before them. And that's the last train order.
Now, why did they shut them down?
They were bankrupt. They were bankrupt for 20 years.
Okay.
And that's the last train.
They should bring that back.
So we're going to concentrate from here in Cornwall to Middletown here. So when the O&M was built, it only went from Middletown up here to Oswego, and Mr. Littlejohn was planning on turning Oswego into the next Buffalo or Rochester, which did not occur. So they'd have to get to Middletown, then they'd have to get trackage rights, because this was the prize to get to New York. So this is the most important part of the O&W that was built, from Middletown to Cornwall. So one of his dishonest honesties was, yes, we can get to the Great Lakes region fast. We're the shortest route, which they were. They were definitely the shortest route, but they weren't the fastest, because, as we'll see, this is all through the mountains in New York, and the other railroads that go along the Hudson Valley, along the river, and then the Mohawk Valley to go west. So, yes, it was shorter, but these guys would take less time. And here is the Scranton Division. This was built in the 1890s. So the O&W, when the first thing was to get milk and dairy from upstate down to New York, which then branched out into passenger service into Sullivan County, Delaware County, people from the city. A lot of they catered to the Jewish clientele. A lot of their advertising was in Hebrew and Yiddish. And then finally, in the 1890s, into Scranton to get coal, which is also powered New York and the country. So slowly what happened was roads, just like with the trolley system, roads started taking over. So the first thing that started to go slowly was dairy industry, because farmers could now truck their milk. Then passenger service. Around the same time, coal went out. Coal was no longer king, and fuel oil took over in the Northeast. And then when 17 was built, that was one of the final blows, because they lost their passenger service to get people up to the the Monticello region, Liberty, all those resorts up there. So we can see how the railroad has been streamlined now. That was another one of their advertisings. So this is one of their main problems. So we're going to start here in Cornwall at sea level. By the time we get to Little Britain, which is less than 11 miles away, we're 465 feet. Burnside is about where we're going to end, maybe a little past, right around Burnside today. We're going to end there. So now that's 3 miles away, and you're dropping another 90 feet. And then the final 10 miles to get to Middletown, you're climbing up again. Up and down, up and down. That's not how you build a major railroad. This is how you build their branch line. All their branch lines are relatively flat. Especially, now this isn't shown here, from Port Jervis. They had a branch from Port Jervis to Kingston. Now everybody would think, oh my God, you're in Ulster County, you're in Sullivan County, Western Orange County. It kind of ran along 209, the valley. So that was one of the flattest parts of the O&W, at 57 miles. So this is to show that it was a branch. A lot of people think it's part of the main line, but it was not. It was a branch. And this is the cost to have it built in the 1880s, early 1880s, per mile, all the materials. So this is, suppose you lived in the Newburgh area like I do. I don't really live in Newburgh, but I live in the Newburgh area. And you wanted to go to Middletown. How would you get there? Well, you probably wouldn't, because back then people didn't travel unless they had a lot of money. So let's just say you had to go. How would you get there? Well, you'd have to take the Erie. So how would you get there, though? Well, first, you'd have to get to Newburgh. So up here this is still standing, the old central building. That's where the Tico Tacos or whatever is up there. And back here, I believe these people, that's where the trolley began. The trolley, the line out to Walden and Orange Lake. I think those people are possibly waiting for it. Then you'd have to get to New Windsor. So over here is 32, and you come down the hill, and the two gas stations are over here, and then you swoop down Union Avenue, and you come back around. That's where this was. This is long gone. Then you'd stop in Vale's Gate. This way is 4 corners.
Yeah.
It wasn't 5 corners then. So that's 300 over here.
Yeah.
Where was that at?
That's it, right?
Then you'd stop in Salisbury Mills. Then you'd stop in Washingtonville. I remember playing in this as a kid when we moved up. And some firebug torched it. Then you'd stop in Blooming Grove. 94 is over here, just over here.
By the police station.
Then you'd stop in Craigville.
Oh, wow.
That's no longer with us. That's long gone. Then you'd stop in Gray Court. That's long gone. Then you get off the train and wait till you get to the next one to go to Middletown.
Chester.
That's 94 in Chester. And this is prior to 1912 because that station was built in 1912, the one that their historical society is in now. And you'd stop in Goshen. You don't want to stop there now.
And how long of a trip was all this?
Hours.
Yeah.
Then you'd stop in New Hampton. This is across from Mason's store.
Yeah, that's the parking lot right now.
Yes. And then finally, you get to Middletown. And this is the first Erie station. The one that's the library now, that was built in 1896. So this would take 3.5 to 4 hours, if you're lucky. So on June 4th, 1883, this long trip was now cut down to 1 hour and 1.5 hours, depending on which O&W train you took. That's from Cornwall, not from Newburgh. Today you can drive from Middletown to Syracuse in the 3.5 to 4 hours it took to go from Middletown prior to 1883, or you can fly to New York and Buffalo. Well, one time I was bored and I had nothing to do as usual. I was in Cornwall on my motorcycle and I followed it best I could. It took me 50 minutes to get to the AV station in Middletown. So here's the schedule, and it's about 26 miles. We're not gonna go the whole 26 today, but we're gonna do some of them.
62 cents.
Yeah, it's funny that we
So that's how much, is people, it only costs 50 cents. Well,
Yeah, but that was a lot back then.
that's how much that was.
It was a crystal rhyme. Interesting.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
So these aren't really O&W tracks. This is shared with the Central. They had track and trades. This is 218 while it was being built. You could see the access road. And I took that picture one time when we had shut the road.
Beautiful
You can see it's single track now. I think they're playing on double tracking it again.
That's down past the marina there, right? By the marina?
Yeah, it's going up the mountain, the high point. And you can see that's where I was up here.
I can open that back up.
So this is the massive coal dock that they had in Cornwall.
Wow.
So I'm looking north. The picture was taken north, so I'd be standing about here, looking this way. and that's where Cornwall was. There's been 3 Cornwalls. There was this one, then there's Lower Cornwall, and there's Upper Cornwall. I don't know what happened here. They just wiped this out. There's nothing here. This is the yacht club now over here, and a parking lot, as you can see here. Now, these tickets, the former vice president of the society, Al Seaback, gave this to me. He passed away, but he knew how much I liked the Middletown branch, so we're going to see a lot of these at every stop. This, I am not 100% sure what it is. I was hoping Doug would be here, but it was something to block some of the trains so they couldn't see signals, which doesn't make sense, but I think that's what it was. It was the other one. It's very confusing.
That almost looks like the building in Middletown
Almost.
by the tracks, yeah.
This was Mead and Taft. This was a huge construction company in Cornwall, and they built many of the mansions up and down the Hudson River, from the Bronx all the way up to Albany. So here's a New York Central. You can see they moved the tracks a little bit when the O&W went under. Another view, 1958. So this is shut down. This building's abandoned now.
Yeah. Oh, it's still there. That burned down, right?
I'm not sure what happened to that one. So we're down here. Here's the coal dock. And this is a later map because you see how the roads are red? Well, the state roads are red. So this is 9W. So we're going to briefly cut into New Windsor, ride along the Moodna, and then come back into Cornwall, through Firthcliffe,
Across the trestle.
32, the Newburgh shortcut of the Erie, the Newburgh branch of the Erie, 94, and then the Meadowbrook Lodge will be over here and back into New Windsor.
Or Station Road.
So that's the Cornwall dock. This was their big deal. They were this is one of their downfalls too. They were the 6th railroad to get into the Scranton area to get coal. And they used, I forget the exact number, but it was a major source of their revenue. And when that went under, it was like boom, that really hurt them bad. So look at all these coal cars lined up, and it was all going down to New York.
Hey, Ray, was the D&E, I mean the New Haven, going to buy them at the end?
Yes, they were all kinds of schemes and scams going on. But
I read that.
yeah, so that's what's left. On low tide, you can see it.
Yeah.
It burned September 18th, 1952. And this is Bob McHugh. He's very knowledgeable in the Cornwall area. So he found this. I was looking forever. I couldn't find him. This is the roundhouse, or the turntable, excuse me, so they could turn the locomotives around.
Yeah, we had a roundhouse in Maybrook.
Yeah, yeah,
Is it bigger than Maple?
Yeah.
yeah. I volunteer at the museum. Yeah.
Oh, that's what I saw. Yeah.
Zelinsky. I never met this guy, but he used to go down to Cornwall too when the O&W just went under in the mid '60s. Not just under, but a few years afterwards.
Trestle?
No, this is a bumper for the coal cars.
Wow.
I don't know what this is.
Maybe that's like a little. You know where they stop?
So this is where the station was. This is Mead and Taft, and you can see 218 hasn't been built yet. That's around, if you see a notch here, that's around 1916, 1915. Because that's one day to date pictures. So they're still on the shared tracks. They're getting ready to go on O&W tracks, but the end is near. It's March of 1957. So in a short time, you can see how things have drastically changed. This is 1932. This is 52, 35, excuse me, 52. And look at how scrubby the place looks as compared. And then 8 years after the O&W went under.
Breathe.
And we'll keep an eye back here on this bridge. And this house, all these houses down here still stand in Cornwall. This is an actual piece of O&W track that did not get torn up.
That's
There's still a few pieces,
yeah.
sections up way upstate, and then in Middletown.
Fulton, they're still using it.
Yeah. Yes. So Doug, my mentor, he wrote all this up, and I've seen this before I knew what the O&W was. And then when I found out, I thought it was some, crazy person hit it with a sledgehammer to get a piece of it. But I was wrong. That's what happened.
Oh, wow.
So they don't know. They think it was negligence. Somebody just messed up, and because this is coming out of Cornwall, it doesn't look it, but we'll see. This is a pretty steep grade. It doesn't look it, but it's
They're going for the trestle.
this way's going towards NYO&W. They're going back towards Cornwall, back towards the station. So this is Shore Drive, Shore Road, whatever they call it over there. Look at this, how the car's accordioned.
Was anybody hurt?
No, the train was empty. It was sitting further up.
I made a fireplace grate out of railroad tracks. All the time. The grates used to melt all the time. My father says, "Oh yeah, crap. I got 2 pieces of railroad track and I welded 1-inch rods across them on it. They never melted." After that.
So this used to be a dump pit back here because there's a lot of factories behind us, brick factories and a paper mill. But over time, it just filled in and became a culvert. But at one time, it was called Bridge Number 1. So that was it here. So we can date this photo. Like, there's the notch, so it's at least 1920. The pier's still up, so it's at least 1952. But this is the final clue because in 1946-47 the O&W tore up and they went back to single track. So this is between 46 and 52. And this is Bridge Number 1. That's right here, what's left. The other one's still in place, but you can't even see it. It's so grown over. And these are standard bridges, all kinds. All railroads had them going over. There's 2 similar. If you know where Rouse Farm is out on 94, there's one behind there, and on 211, by where the Erie comes with the Graham line, get with the program. The Metro North comes real close. There's an abandoned road, and there's a bridge just exactly like that.
I have a question for you. You talked about the coal being brought by the cars. Wasn't it also a very big fur area on the Hudson? Furs. Furs?
No, maybe years ago, but
not at this
no,
time?
no.
Okay.
1700s.
No, it was way
1700s?
Yeah, it was way before.
Okay, thank you.
So this bridge was abandoned. We're gonna check this gentleman out because he keeps showing up on this day.
Where is that, Ray?
This is in Cornwall. This is that bridge there.
Is he at the head?
Oops. There he is again. So these were just wood deck bridges. When I lived in Washingtonville, this is what the bridge was like going over Cardinal Drive. It was like, oh my God. So this is when they were double tracking. You could see the split in the concrete. All they did was add another bridge. And here's the piers. So this is for the newer bridge. This is for the older one. They didn't have time for fancy stonework. Pour the concrete. And this bridge, the road bridge, still the same. Oops. All right. So you can see the safety rope to hold the bridge up. OSHA would be proud. So this is around 1905 they double tracked because they had to get, it was so much coal traffic, it was interfering with their passenger service. So this bridge, this section for about a mile and a half till they got to the Firth Cliff Carpet Company. Even after the O&W went under, the New York Central served it till like 19 65, 64 maybe. I'm not exactly sure. So they used this bit of O&W track for quite some time after they went under. Now this is an optical illusion. This is the bridge we were just looking at, the north side. This is shore. See how it's coming down?
Yeah.
And it looks like the O&W is going down, but it's actually still going up. It's still climbing grade here till they get to 9W.
Yeah, it's uphill.
Wow. That's tricky.
Oops, how'd that happen? Alright, so there's the bridge again that we saw. And this is the central going up to Albany, up to the, up towards Selkirk anyway. I'm not sure what this one is for.
Siding there.
Not sure what that siding was for. No idea. But you can see again, so it's at least 1920 and it's at least 1947. So what is going on here? Okay, so everybody familiar with NYMA, New York Military Academy?
Yeah.
So the O&W is back here.
It's Donald's alma mater.
Yep,
Donald's alma mater.
yep. And right here is 9W because 9W wasn't built till the late 30s. So this was the road to get to Newburgh at first. You had to go through NYMA. And the Moodney Yard, this was nothing but a storage facility for coal cars, and you could see once the coal went out, they removed all these tracks because they had to pay taxes on them. Why pay taxes on something you're not using? So this is 9W here. Or the forerunner of 9W, excuse me. 9W would be closer to here. And here we are building this bridge. This is the forerunner of 9W. This is 1912, and look at the dump trucks they're using.
Horses.
Mules
Yes.
and horses. So this is a very dangerous grade crossing. And over here on this side is where the Moodney Yard is. So there's a lot going on in this picture. Over here, first of all, keep that spot in mind, that little bare spot, for the next few pictures. This house still stands right here, minus the cupola. And this house stands right here. So those, they're not from the area where we just saw bridge number 1 and how I said, oh, it looks like an optical illusion. From here all the way over into New Windsor. This is like, I guess, a gazillion years ago when the Moodney was real wide. This rock eroded everything away. This is quite a drop from here that they're filled. This fill, and we'll see later when they built 9W, we get a little bit more. It's got to be like 100 feet from up here to down there.
Steam shovel.
So this is the original, again, this house, so 9W is over here now. These houses were blown out when they built 9W. And this bare spot again. That's what that was. It was a covered bridge there.
Oh, wow.
And that was the abutment. Now when Sandy or Irene came by, or one of those storms, all the debris, the trees, they flooded here. They got jammed up, and then 9W got flooded. I was retired by then, and guys were calling me up, right, has the water ever come over? I said, I've never seen that in 35 years. Never. This is a great picture. Here's the boss. So, we laugh, oh, look at these mules. Well, imagine if they didn't have that steam shovel, they'd be like, how many of these guys? 100 with shovels and picks? What they would do, they would pick up the track. They'd have 2 sections of track pre-made, and as they'd move forward, they'd back up, pick it up with a chain, and just keep moving and moving and moving. So here's the top of the hill, and what they're digging out, and then there's still another drop. So this is really steep. This is one of my best pictures. Just about the same spot. I went back for the 100-year. Benini and Callahan owns this now, and they had all their trucks lined up. And you know, and when I was going up there, the guy's like, "What are you doing?" So I'm trying to explain, and then when I showed him this picture, I was his best friend for life. So this is the road that look at that. And there it is. So Nema's back here. And that's the finished bridge. That's quite an accomplishment, Even today, that's pretty nice. But well, good things come to an end, because in 1939 it was obsolete. It was falling apart. So this is the way it used to come down. And 9W is here now. You can still see the... Yeah. Yeah. I think we're going to see Sakono later. It's okay. So this is 9W Bridge. This was... When I got hired in 77 by the DOT, it was falling down. And they finally got rid of it in 86 when there was a massive rock slide on Storm King Mountain. And they didn't know what to do with all the rocks. They said, well, let's get rid of this bridge. So they filled it in. And they did the same on 94 with Meadowbrook too. Not as many rocks, but quite a bit. So we've been over here, the bridge. And there it is, way in the back, over here. So where that car is, that's where the O&W bridge would have been on top. This is a really bad intersection here. They did what they could, but it's still pretty bad. So look at all the fill they used to get from there, bless you,
Thank you.
to here. That's what I was saying, the drop off.
Yeah, wow.
You really don't notice it, but
It is a lot of fill.
and even the old road, look at the fill they had there. So that's the rocks they filled in the bridge. It was like around 86.
Oh, I remember that bridge.
So this was the mood in the yard. When you're like, oh, if these scrubby trees weren't here and there were railroad tracks, you wouldn't be able to see, just like you can't see now because there'd be so many coal cars lined up. So we're going to come into Firthcliffe. And for the longest time, I could not find this. I kept walking up and down. It's this kind of semi-official rail trail in Cornwall. I couldn't find it. And then Bob McHugh found it because he found the rock face. What happened was they dug this out. They put a sewer line in. So I was looking in the wrong spot.
So I get rid of the bank.
And then when I was walking, this was wiped out by Irene through here. And again, later we'll see a couple more slides ahead, it was wiped out, like even worse. This is called Dravo Switch. This is quite a drop to get to the Firthcliffe Carpet Factory, and this is the main line. It take like 2 or 3 locomotives to push the cars out. Yeah, yes. Now, Bob isn't here either, Bob McHugh. He insists, jokingly, that this is one of his relatives because he used to live here. He used to live here.
That's the wife of the other man that's in the other pictures.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
So this is what it looked like prior to this crazy underpass that they built. This is Anna's store. Whenever I show this in Cornwall, this was like a focal point of the kids. They all loved Anna's. And this was also called Montana. We'll see a few signs. This Firthcliffe Station. And here they are building it. This was a dangerous grade crossing. Any grade crossing is dangerous, but even this one was especially dangerous.
Now, all those stations were built by the same people, right?
Yes.
Mechanicstown, Firthcliffe,
Yeah.
and
Burnside, Meadowbrook,
Burnside, yeah.
and Crystal Run.
Because they're all very similar design.
Yeah. This is the most elaborate. This is quite the endeavor they're doing here. Keep an eye on this thing.
Oh, wow. Underpass.
And that was the finished project.
Wow.
Oh, we can't see everything. But anyway, this was even more dangerous. This was stayed until the 60s. And people I knew from Cornwall when I was working, I said, this thing was unbelievable driving through this. Now, Bob had found an article from 1910. The thing wasn't even open 6 months. And one of them newfangled automobiles came through. And a poor gentleman on a horse and wagon was coming the other way. He got thrown from the wagon, got run over by it, broke his leg, and they found the horse and wagon about a mile away. So this was really, really bad, as we'll see. And that's what they were trying to break, that rock.
Wow.
They needed that guy when in Pale Rider with Clint Eastwood when he busted the rock looking for the gold. And that was the finished project. So here's the top of the wall. You can see here. And you see the handrails. This went all around so people wouldn't cross the grade crossing. You see the handrails here? That's them. Right there. Smith or the wall. Everybody in Cornwall wants to dig this out, see what it looks like. And there's the underpass here, so you can see how it used to go this way. And that's how the road goes now, back how it used to be before they built this crazy thing. I mean, that's what remains of it,
How much?
this piece here. And that was bridge number 3.5. And this was the most elaborate one with this tower on it of the 6 stations, as was just mentioned. We'll see them all along the way. Mechanicstown was the last one to survive. And these old trains, they were usually junkers, what we would think of like if you had a junkyard,
Camelbacks.
and just get them out, get the work done. Nothing fancy. Again, the finished project. And this was just brought back from Colorado. Somebody in the society collected it as a collector, and they managed to buy it, bring it back. And you can see here how the station was also called Montana. I don't know why. Not looking too good here.
For a bird down.
And then the lattice of coincidence, 11 years after the coal trestle burned down, this burned down for the last time. And that's what's left. Bob found these, so they're finally filling it in 1966, this abomination. So there's the carpet factory. At one time, this was the biggest employer in Cornwall area. There's the station, and you can see the crazy road. Now the Moodna, I know from personal experience, where we lived in Washingtonville, we wouldn't get flooded. People not even a half a mile down the street from where we lived, their houses would be buried in water. This creek can be, you could drive an El Camino across it sometimes, other times it's the Colorado, whitewater rafting. It's unbelievable. So this is the coal dock for the carpet factory behind me. So the train would stop there, dump the coal, and then the guys either would have a truck or a cart, and they'd go across the road to the factory. There it is, Firth. So this area is really swampy. A lot of pipes to drain the area. Ores mills. Now this is not to be confused with the trestle that's still standing, the viaduct that still stands in Salisbury. So the O&W came across here. This is a pretty dangerous grade crossing too. So they could get across this. This is long gone. People that's the one in Salisbury. This is not in Salisbury Mills. Now, if you go on the Facebook Cornwall page, somebody's building a house on this. Right here.
Oh yeah, on the top of the hill there. Yeah. I saw
Yeah. Oops. Let's back up. All right, so they're double tracking here and they're rebuilding the viaduct. So this is something I remembered. You know, you could see this on 32 easily. So 32 has been rerouted. 32 and 52 were the last roads in Orange County to be rerouted. If you saw my trolley shows, they were in 1903. The state of New York brought up a lot of roads. For some reason, 32 and 52 were the last. And this is really dangerous through here. We'll see in a few minutes. So these are the original abutments, and then when they rebuilt the bridge, the concrete ones.
Is that early 1900s?
Yes. Yeah, like 19...
When they were double tracked.
4, yeah. This is prior to 03. This is wrong. I thought I cleared it. It's 800 feet long, not 1,800 feet long. It's about 800 and between 800 and 850. I'm sorry about that. I thought I had fixed that. So a lot of my pictures I take on April 1st because efficient stinks. I can always take O&W pictures. So here I am, crappy day of fishing. Let's take some pictures. And this is to show how powerful the movement can be. Now let's look back at this concrete and that.
Top lit over.
Just blew it right over. So this is Orange County 32, Mill Street, not to be confused with New York 32 down here. In 1940, the trains are crossing. This guy's heading towards Middletown and north, and this guy's heading back towards New York, Weehawken. And there was a station at one time on the Orris Mills Trestle. And there was a mill at Orris Mills right here. This guy, I stopped and asked him if I could take some pictures. He had no idea that was there. He always wondered what.
That was the mill at Orr's Mill.
Right, what was there? So that's another one of the coal bumpers, so the train doesn't, or the car doesn't go flying off. And then the demolition occurred in 62. And the scrap of one of the articles, and it went to Belgium. Another view. 830 feet. So that's what the guy was wondering. He goes, oh, yeah, I wonder what this was. Well, it burned down. That was the Orr's Mill, what's left of it. What burned down. So that was 32 at one time. You had to drive underneath.
Is that in the same path 32 is right now?
No,
I was gonna say, yeah.
no. It's over here.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's more towards the river.
So this way is up towards Vales Gate, and this way is back towards Central Valley. So keep an eye on these, the abutments, because that's the abutment. I remember that. That was one of the first things I remember seeing. I climbed to the top
It's still
from that side. I was like, ooh. So this is Beeks Road. This is bridge number 7, and Eric, he's helped too. And this Fred Lewis, he was a big historian, I would say, of the New Windsor area. Anything that had to do with New Windsor, he took pictures of in the late 50s, early 60s.
So that's heading towards underneath the trestle, right? The trestle is still there.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. So this is the Erie shortcut. This is going to Newburgh. This way is the O&W back towards Cornwall, and this is the O&W towards Middletown.
And that's where they're going to start the trail that goes to
Further back.
Chester, isn't it?
No,
No?
not here, not here. No. This is private property. The coal dealership was here. That's Orr's Mills Road. trail's gonna go this way, further back
Okay.
towards the viaduct. So this burned down a while ago.
West Cornwall.
Different names. Throughway. They're supposed to fill this in. I don't know if they're gonna. So we're back in here.
Yeah.
Here's 94. And now we're gonna come back into New Windsor. And then we're gonna go over Bethlehem, ride really close to Lake. And then over Jackson. Oh, I mean, I'm sorry, Jackson, then Lake, Station, Tolman, and Bull. Now you can see, even though the O&W is the north and south railroad, it's kind of going east and west through this part of Orange County. And notice how it's still, let's go this way, let's go that way. Here's the Erie Graham line, what we know Metro North, nice and straight. Ramsdell Lake, that's Beaver Dam Lake. If you saw my trolley shows, Mr. Ramsdell was like loaded, and he owned half of Newburgh, so he built his own lake.
Oh wow.
That was all military people lived on that lake years ago.
Yeah.
Beaver Dam.
This is the Erie from Newburgh back to Great Court. This is bridge number 9.
That's the crossover.
Bridge 10. This is all swampy through here. Very swampy. Meadowbrook. So all this stuff is somewhat still standing. We'll take a look at it in a second. And then how they rebuilt 94. Another spot that
Sharon fell off the right there. She got 4 stitches in her. And I had to bring her to the hut.
One today?
Carl Olson, our one of our members, drew this.
Nothing. He doesn't even anything.
And he based it on this. This is the Mountaineer. This is the most famous train that the O&W had. And what they did was the old shibe on this thing. It was a really old train, but they got, I forget, Otto Kruger or Kluger,
Yeah.
and he
Streamlined.
they put all this fancy metal on it, and they made it real pretty, but they were still towing cars from 50 years ago.
They painted them.
This, does anybody know what these are? These are called telltales, and they're very important if you're standing on the train and it's moving. We'll see why in a minute. Oops, don't want to hit your head on that.
I was guessing that would be like a bridge if the train was too tall or something.
So this is 94. Well, we're going to go to Vales Gate that way and Washington that way. So this was built in the 30s, late 30s. We'll take a look at all the construction photos. Right here is the old road. This was a grade crossing. Again, strange that they didn't remove it in 1903, but they didn't. So in 1929, July 6th, 1929, they were thinking about removing the grade crossing. So since it's the government, it only took them 7 years to do it. And something else I found, this had nothing to do with the railroad. So this is Road 154, Orange County. Even though back then it was 45, 94 was 45. This is a code that is still in use because I somehow, when I worked for the DOT, I snuck into some thing and they still called 94 154. That's the official number, and 207 is 153, and 17K was another. Very strange how they're officially numbered in Albany, but yet what we see is completely different than the signs, on the side of the road. I don't get that at all.
There's a station.
So there's the Meadowbrook Station, and this was the freight house. And in 1935, they shut down service to the freight house. I wonder why. And there's the reservoir, and these were the foundations for all the buildings that we just saw. Back up. So there's the pump house. Here's the pump house, the reservoir, and the water tower.
That's right, the side where you are, that's head towards Station Road, right? you are, that's station, going to Station Road,
Behind us
Yeah.
is 94.
94, okay.
Behind us is 90. Well, this way is 94. You can see barely make out the rail up there.
Yeah.
Somebody didn't like the O&W.
Station Road, ain't that over by Maybrook?
Yeah,
Station
it's-
roads everywhere. There's station roads everywhere.
Actually, it's Meadowbrook over to
So-
Little Britain.
This is what's left of the station. This piece right here. So this was burned. I don't know if it was torched, arson, or if it was a controlled burn by the fire department in the late 40s. And again, looks just like, except for the tower, the one we just saw in Firthcliffe, looks just like the Rusty Nail before that was torched.
Yeah.
So this is what they wanted to do. They wanted to get rid of the grade crossing here at 94. So the Meadowbrook Lodge is over here.
Uh-huh.
So you see how this is all paved, nicely paved. Well, in a few slides I'll explain why. This is a pretty dangerous grade crossing. Now another oddity of the O&W. This is called a bridge. Right there. I always wondered, like when I worked for the DOT, why was this house cockeyed? You know, cock funny. And that's why, because that's where the road used to go.
It's roads. Oh, wow.
So in January 1st, 1949, 45 became 94. And then 45 went down to Rockland County.
Yeah.
94,
So this is the road that led the station to be over here, and there's the old road 94.
Yeah.
And I didn't put the new picture in. Darn. Well, anyway. Alright, my fault. Anyway, right now you would be standing on 94, where the bridge was that they built in 1937, 1938. Getting ready to build the bridge. Another guy that's important.
Oh, wow. That's when you build the overpass.
So another gentleman in the society, Walter Skowski, he's forgotten more about the O&W than I'll know. He took this around 1966. I remember when we first moved up, we used to ride dirt bikes down there, and I had no idea what was down there. Go hunting, no idea what was down there. And here's the old road. So when they filled in the bridge, which we'll see shortly. Now this is, you can still see the marker for Bridge 12. That looks like a culvert to me. In a few slides, we're going to see something that should be a bridge, but they call it a culvert. No idea why. So that's what it looked like. I remember that. Not that clean, but boy, it was cold that day. Brr. So here they are building to get around. So the guy that lives over here, Cavallari, they own the Meadowbrook Lodge. They made a fortune, he said, because they needed fill, you know, for these roads, and they had all this property over there. So if you're ever by the Meadowbrook Lodge and you go on the old road, look, like on the Salisbury side, and there's a big gouge in the earth. That's why, because they needed to fill over all this road in. And you can see how much the road raised here, but now it's flat when they filled in the bridge. This was brutal plowing. Holy mackerel, was that scary?
And no guardrails.
Well, it was just you couldn't see the cars and it was so narrow.
Yeah.
So he's going back towards Cornwall.
That's this picture. Fall.
And so the station and the pump house and all that stuff would be in here. So Walter was standing on the bridge when he took that picture in 1966. There was no bridge when I took it in 05. So now we're looking north, and when the O&W Society, we used to have our convention at the Meadowbrook Lodge, and we set something up so people could take a walking tour. And this is one of the pictures we used. And that's at bridge number 12 that we were just looking at. Now, what they're doing, Mr. Cavallari finally got permission. He's building a development back there, and he's using the old right-of-way as the access road to get to his houses that he's going to build back there. And that was the Meadowbrook Lodge in 1936.
Oh wow.
In when we had our conventions there, Mr. Cavallari, he had his great uncle or his father. This guy was old, and he used to tell us stories how this was one of the first stop for people coming out of the city to get some country living, and he would stop at the station with a buckboard and horses and bring the people over. He also said he remembers, especially dry summers, they'd help the fire department put the fires out when the trains went by and they left the cinders burning. So this is the telltale back here, this post back here. This is this bridge here. There's a car here in the old road. This is a stubbing post. In the early 1900s, from Port Jervis to Kingston, the D&H Canal was shut down, and the O&W purchased it, and they ran trains on part of the towpath. So they would pull up these and use them as mile markers, so you could see, especially in some of them, the rope burns
Worn down.
and how they got worn. These things are like icebergs. This is maybe 3 feet high. I bet you there's 6 feet of it buried. At least 5, if not 6. There's a battery box and a light stand. This is Bethlehem Road. Again, same style bridge. So I'm standing on top looking this way. And this is from Eric, Fred Lewis's picture. This house still stands. This guy's got a collection of stuff outside if you're ever looking for the area. Another thing that O&W did, this used to be called a bridge. Now they called it a culvert. And I think what they did was they just wanted to get this railroad built so quickly that they just threw anything down where it could stay as a culvert or where it had to be rebuilt. They would make it a bridge. So this is Jackson Avenue over here. So the O&W is going like, they're going to meet up. They're going to get real close. The O&W is going to go like this, and Jackson's going to come like this. There's still some ties in the road. This is Deniston's. This is a little blip on the map not many people know about. So farmers use, way back when they use it for their animals so they get from one field to the other. Now they're using it for storage. This one can easily be seen from Jackson Avenue if you know where to look and at the right time of year, like not now. This one I got permission from Mr. Russ Halleck. He knows a lot of people, and that's how we got back here to see this one. Looking north at Denison's. And this was a coal dump. And they had plans, it's only like 2 miles from Stewart Airport, and that's when it was the Army base. And they were thinking about making a siding so they could get coal to the Army base. And that never panned out. But then they were thinking, oh man, what if they did that? And then they would have been able to connect to Metro North today. And what if? And
Yeah, still do it.
so that's where the coal dump was, somewhere in here. And it was a grade crossing here. Behind me is a Christmas tree farm. And the gentleman let me walk back there very graciously. Now this is a culvert. Where's the end of the bridge? I don't know. Now, when they double track, you can see this is the original side. This is the nice, beautiful stonework. And when they double track, they didn't have time for that. Pour concrete.
Just poured it, yeah.
Just let's get going. Here's a whistle post. What's left of it. So this is Lake Road. And over here, I don't know the right picture. Oh well. Over here is this. This guy has a tree business and he stores all his equipment there. This gentleman has no idea that a railroad went through his yard. And I showed him this picture. This barn still stands. Okay, so we're over here. And we're still twisting and turning.
See where
Well, here we are in Little Britain.
we
This is bridge number 22. Another cattle crossing. Coming into Little Britain. Again, Al gave me this one. This was what we thought was the only picture we had of the Little Britain station. But the town of New Windsor historian found this one and he gave it to me. Gave it to us, I should say me. Gave it to the society. This is in Cottikill, along the Kingston branch.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is not an exact, it's almost an
very
exact,
similar though, yeah.
very, very close. So
Yeah, that's by the firehouse. You got it.
it's across the, yeah.
The firehouse is behind it.
Yeah. All right, why don't we turn it? So Decoration Day is Memorial Day. Well, it was back then. This young lady is one of the members of the society's either great aunt or aunt. I forget. I should have taken this gentleman's name out. I'm sorry I didn't. Nothing against Mr. Bellinger, but I gave this show one time somewhere, and showing these pictures, and I ran into Ivan a couple years later at a gas station, and he's like he hardly knew me. I go, Ivan, Ray, you remember me? He goes, "Did you tell people to come to my house and start looking around?" I go, "No." He goes, "Well, some guy went to one of your shows. He said, 'Don't worry about it. You can go.'" I was like, "So please don't." So anyway, these are incidental pictures of the station because these are family photos.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on this. So Ivan,
The outhouse. Yeah.
he said that his father-in-law, this is before he got married, was a very frugal man. And they didn't get running water or electricity till 1960, his family, when he died.
Oh my lord.
Imagine going out there in the middle of the night.
For the winter.
Yeah.
Sounds like mine.
So here's another shot, an incidental shot. I think this is like a 27 Chevy, somewhere in there.
Where was that station in Wilbur?
Station Road.
It was on Station Road.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was. So, no, Ivan since then he cleared this out. This is where the station was. Keep an eye on this, and that's the house that didn't have any power or water till 1960. So passenger service stopped at Little Britain, and they bought the garage. The family bought the garage with the stipulation, you got to move it off the property. So that's what they did. Since it was the Depression, that's the Little Britain station today. Stairs and windows. That was the original color. It was green trim.
Don't look bad for that many years.
Yeah. So this, you can this is what's left of the creamery. And over the years, there's the adult manufactured home community over here. When I went to visit the guy, I said, "This is the nicest trailer park I've ever been in." And the guy wanted to stab
Now
me.
where that is, did there used to be a bridge there? That
Yes.
Crossed over?
Yes.
So they filled that in when,
Yeah,
the 60s?
yeah, early, yeah. I don't think it. after the show, when we get done, I'll explain some other stuff. But
Yeah.
so there was a bridge behind us. So these guys definitely had to get their goods from the O&W. I mean, how else would you get it?
Yeah.
Same style bridge. This way's to 207, maybe half a mile away. This way's to Washingtonville.
Oh, so that's the bridge I was talking about.
No, this is the next one. That was Tolman Road.
Oh, okay.
This is Tolman here. So this was still there in 2004, but he took it all out because he wants to build an access road to his manufactured adult home community, which he's never done. I believe, and this is only speculation on my part, that I'm standing on Bull Road looking back, and that's Tolman. Excuse me. This Bull Road's really close to Tolman Road here.
Yeah.
Now, if you tried that today, you can't see 10 feet in front of you.
No, it's not. There's just weeds and trees.
Bull Switch. Okay. So I always thought that this, was the O&W. This is the O&W, excuse me. Over here is the power lines. I worked with this guy's cousin, and forever I tried to get permission to get back there, and he just would not answer letters. I sent him pictures, he wouldn't do it. So you can see what it says here. This is not the right of way for Central Hudson. When I retired from DOT, they gave me 3 presents. They let me keep my hard hat, they let me keep my high-vis vest, but most importantly, they let me keep my clipboard. So one day, it was really cold, and the guys were working for Central Hudson, cutting the brush underneath the huge power lines, and they had those huge tracked vehicles. So I waited a couple days till they got out of sight where you could see it's a person, but not know who it is. Put my stuff on with my clipboard, and they all snapped to attention, and I just walked out there and took my pictures. It's like that one.
Boss.
Exactly. I had that clipboard.
And that's where the Marcy South power line is, right?
Remember that.
Yeah.
Okay.
The power lines are here.
Yeah.
For the view. So this is wide open. There's a big horse farm over here now. I had to get that bridge too. The
We're
marker.
towards the country club there, right?
We're not near the country club yet.
Not yet.
No. So there's a big wreck here. Bull Switch. We'll take a look at that. When I mean big, I mean big.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
Down it goes.
The whole thing went.
So they had to reroute their trains for quite some time. The Erie, they had to go what we consider the Metro North now. They up 17, old 17, and then over. So everybody's just hanging out. This young man, his name is Dennis Carpenter, and I believe later on he grew up to be either the chief of police or the fire department chief in Newburgh. So everybody's just hanging out. Kodak moments before there were selfies.
Yeah.
So this is the New Haven, and they came from Maybrook to help out. This is their train that pulled look at the size of that beast. The local.
They said everybody in Maybrook at one time worked for the railroad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
place was huge.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was a huge marshal yard.
Look at these guys. You gotta be kidding me.
It's like 5 or 6 railroads in there.
Huh?
5 or 6 railroads.
I had no protective.
Nope. So this is off of Shaw Road. And over here, you can access this now. Over here is a Washingtonville soccer field or baseball field or combination. Oops. So this area is also swampy too, a lot of culverts. When I snuck back there. Let me back up. Yeah, all right. So you could see. So what they did, the O&W, a couple quick O&W stories. They were so poor and desperate and out of money, they left it. They never put the train back to where the tracks back to where they were. So when they had to, when they had to go around the wreck to keep going, they never moved it back. In 1954 or 55, I cannot find a picture for the bridge that went over Shore Road, but I did find a story. So the O&W was completely broke. The town of New Windsor, the county of Orange, and the state of New York are going to shut them down because this bridge over Shore Road is so awful. They had to spend $54,000 to build this bridge when they were broke, and in 2 years they go out of business, and in about 5 or 6 years the town of New Windsor tears the bridge down. So one of the things that did keep them afloat for a while, all this coal, and they would ship it to Europe. So during the war, they were thrown a lifeline.
Yeah, they were,
And after the war.
they were real busy during the war, but that really beat up their equipment too.
Yeah. So this is Beatty Road, and we'll keep the Beatties in mind.
Yeah.
Now we'll wait till we get to Rock Tavern. The next show, I'll tell you about the Beatties. So here they are tearing it up. Beatty Road Bridge. So what happens here is, if you're from the area, this is Culvert 34D, and it's back here. This area was all farmland at one time, so this was a small pond with a dam for the farm, I guess for his cows or whatever. So over the time, the dam broke. The culvert can't handle the water. Since they tore the bridge out, the water has nowhere to go, so it's all backed up. So maybe in 100,000 years, this will be all filled up to here. All the water coming out of here because there's nowhere to go. Bridge 33, my favorite bridge. I discovered. I found this. I couldn't believe it.
Oh, that's still there. Yeah.
That's Doug's car.
Yeah.
And that's it for today.